Now, at the moment, about half of all of the UK's exports go to the European Union. But how much would business be affected if we were to leave? Well, Ridley Bikes makes and exports top spec cycles all around the world. The founder, Joachim Arts, says he believes it's vital that companies in Europe are able to work together to challenge the might of the United States and China.
If you look at the world and how strong the US is on, for example, the whole internet and everything what's involved with it, and you see how strong China is with everything what's in the production industry where labor is the big cost, then I think Europe has to be smart and work together and don't make Europe 20 islands, but make it one Europe. There is so much technology here, and if you can share this with each other, I think Europe has a great future of new R&D.
Now, we're here from the UK, as you know, Joachim, which isn't on the European mainland, feels a bit different from being here in the heart of the European continent. When you look at the UK, do you consider us to be part of Europe, or do you consider us sort of one step away?
One step away, there's just a small canal in between, but for the rest I see it as part of Europe.
One small canal, but part of Europe. Well, let's debate this then with Olivier van Hombeek, who's with me. He's the Development Chair of the British Chambers of Commerce, also runs his own personnel business here. Good morning to you, Olivier. And
morning,
back
Adam.
in the UK in Salford is Scott Fletcher, the Chair and founder of ANS, an IT business based in Manchester. Morning, Scott.
Morning, Adam.
Right, Scott, let's kick off with you. You're based in Manchester. How much business do you do with the European Union?
We do very little, and in the UK there's 5 million small businesses, and I think only around 20% export anywhere. I mean that in itself needs to be changed. But there's a lot of regulation coming from Europe that's put on small businesses, and most of us actually just trade between ourselves.
What sort of regulation are you talking about? Because plenty of people, Scott, will say, well, we need regulation, we need businesses to be controlled, we need laws and rules.
No, I think that's right. I think when we look at this whole argument, fundamentally, what is the EU? The EU is a government organisation, and we're talking now about ever closer political union. 40 years ago, the country voted to become into a free trade zone. That's what everybody wants. We want to trade freely with Europe, but we don't want this political union.
Yeah, so it was the European Economic Community, known as the Common Market, as you said, 40 years ago. Mind you, Scott, people will say, well, you've got access to this huge market here, 28 member nations. Shouldn't you be using it a bit more?
Absolutely, but I've got access to the whole world as well. We import product from the US, we import product from Europe. We also sell to some places in Europe too. But at the end of the day, we've got a whole world to trade with. We don't need to be in a political union for that to happen.
Olivier, listening to that, you're based here in Brussels. You're also Development Chair of the British Chambers of Commerce. I suspect a bit more positive towards the European Union than Scott there.
Well, I cannot hide it, of course, being from a small country, that I'm rather positive to the EU as a trading bloc. I also think it's hugely important, as you mentioned, to Britain's economy. You mentioned free access to a market of 500 million citizens, free movement of people, capital can flow freely between the borders, making it easier and cheaper for business to get hold of finance. Okay, yes, there is the drawbacks, the regulation, and accountability deficits, wastefulness. But I believe business is still massively in favour of the single market and the UK's membership to it.
I would totally agree with that. I think everybody's in favour of free trade. Everybody's in favour of trading between ourselves. What we're not in favour of is ever closer political union and the United States of Europe, which is where we're heading. If we look back 40 years ago, we didn't vote for the United States of Europe. We voted to get into an agreement to trade. And nobody's arguing that we should trade together and we should trade together freely. What we're arguing against is political union.
Olivier?
Well, let's talk about the business side of all this.
Let's say, Olivier, let's put that into the sort of frame of a question. Would you say that the European Union has expanded potentially too much, has gone from being this free trade bloc to being a political organisation, and that's what troubles people?
Well, if you have a look at the Eurosceptic point of view, I think in the run-up of the elections, the arguments that have been used, I think that the arguments tend to misunderstand the nature of the regulation. They exaggerate the damage done to the UK economy by individual items of legislation. Look at some studies of the OECD. They, I don't think that the EU has prevented the UK as a place to do business.
You think that we get much more out of it than we need to worry about? I mean, Scott, what would persuade you of the benefits of greater political integration?
See, that's the point. Let's have that debate. I don't believe it's in the best interest of Europe to be further politically integrated. I think we're all, 28 individual countries with our own ways of life, and it's brilliant. I mean, I have a place over in Marbella that I use. We travel freely in the borders. Absolutely. I've got an uncle who emigrated to America. I've got friends who live in Australia. That's the way of the world. We're in a world where everybody travels, everybody trades with each other. That's fantastic. This political union, it's actually going to, particularly for the UK, I believe, it's going to stop innovation. It is stopping innovation. We're a country that has always been innovative and a country that can trade with the whole of the world.
And Olivier,
yes.
Right, I'm sitting here in Brussels. I am surrounded by big, shiny, expensive buildings. European Parliament buildings, European Commission buildings, goodness knows what other sort of quangos. Colossal amount of money is spent on the bureaucracy here. How does that benefit the UK?
Let's put things in perspective, I think. I think the amount of civil servants here in Brussels, let's say there are 40,000 civil servants working for the EU. That is less civil servants than an average city in Belgium, let's say the city of Antwerp. Also the questions about the budget. Budget is not even 1% of total GDP. It's peanuts if you have a look what you're getting back for it. I would like to ask a question back to my colleague in Manchester. Has the EU stopped British economy from continuing to grow? I think that the common market has enabled Britain to attract many more skills, capital and know-how to help drive the UK economy.
Well, there we go, Scott. Do you think that the EU has been a drag on our economy or not?
Okay, we're talking about the whole thing here with the political union. If we're talking about trade, absolutely not. Trade is fantastic for all businesses. Free movement of labour with the correct skills is fantastic for business. We should also have free movement of labour for engineers worldwide into the UK. We need engineers, we need software developers here urgently. So it's not just about the EU. We should be trading freely with the whole world. That's the point. I don't want to tag trade with political union, and we need to separate those two arguments and stop talking about one thing.
Daniel Gross, let's go back to you, Director of Economy and Finance at the Centre for European Policy Studies. Daniel, the UK has, I suppose, a very different relationship with the European Union from most members, doesn't it?
Yes, in a certain sense it's special because it has a more global outlook. And it's true that one doesn't need a political union for free trade, but I don't think the UK is being forced into any sort of political union right now.
But is there an argument, Daniel, that this European project, which started as a free trade movement, has become something much more politically and all-encompassing?
That is certainly true, and actually that was the very intention from the very beginning, because that was what the founding fathers wanted. They wanted to start with something practical, which would show everybody the benefits of integration, and step by step they would create more.
Does that mean that ultimately we are on a path that if the UK continues to be a member, that it will be led into a federal integrated Europe? Is that what the rest of Europe wants, do you think?
If the UK stays inside and given a special status, it is possible that on the continent something more federal is or will be emerging. but nobody will force or can actually force the UK to participate.
Well, it's a commitment in the treaties, isn't it, of ever closer union? And you just admitted now it was from the beginning. This was what it was about. But I tell you what, in 1975, I wasn't born then. But if you ask anybody that voted, we didn't vote for that. We voted for a free trade, and it was sold to us as that.
Thanasu, if the UK has an interesting relationship with the European Union, clearly Greece at the moment has a very interesting relationship. What's your view on the future of the European movement?
Well, I'm a federalist, I admit to say. Well, united we stand, divided we fall. Very simple. Simple as that. We need to have a political union. I don't know if the UK is going to join, but anyway, the rest of the continent has to unite somehow.
And Olivier, your thoughts on that? The spectre of a federal Europe, that may frighten a lot of voters in a EU referendum in the UK.
Well, indeed, might very well be. Let me also be clear. There are flaws and there are drawbacks. And I think it would be better also for the UK if they can act from within. And perhaps one reason that it hasn't up till now is a lack of interest and also responsibility. I do think that other EU member states expect the UK to play a role in the areas where it is respected. I might think of foreign and defense policy, climate and energy, and of course trade and single market.
Well, we will leave it there. I want to thank all of you, Daniel Gross, Olivier van Hohenbeek, Scott Fletcher, Thanos Athanasiou and Richards, and also everybody at Ridley Bicycles for letting me in there. If you missed it earlier, by the way, Top End Bicycles, named after Ridley Scott, the director of Blade Runner and the favourite film of the man who founded the bicycles. He wanted to call it Scott, but that name had already gone, so we went for Ridley. More European facts to come as we spend the day studying Europe.
On digital and online.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
bbc.co.uk/5live.